This is Koreascape on TBS eFM 101.3 in Seoul, and what you're hearing is the musical score for a virtual reality animation feature that has just been receiving some big accolades at the Venice International Film Festival. The director and composer behind buddyvr were just over there, and they won the Best VR Experience Award. This is an animation feature based on the movie The Nut Job, which involves mice and squirrels, I believe, chasing nuts or other animated pursuits along those lines. We're about to find out a whole lot more about it because we've got the director, the Korean director, Chae Soo-eun, or Chuck Chae, and Stefan Schmidt, the American composer behind the project. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thank you, Kurt, for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your prize in Venice. That's exciting.
Thank you very much.
How did you feel to get that?
Nervous. still nervous.
I think I remember just being invited to the award ceremony. We were all sitting. I think it was the second or third row, but we were like one of the first rows there. And I just looked over to Chuck, and he was just like, I could just imagine, he was just so nervous.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a whole new category. It's kind of, you guys are the pioneers in a way. There's not, correct me if I'm wrong, is there much VR animation or other entertainment as a genre out there yet?
Apparently, the animation VR involving interactive storytelling, this has been the first case that was done in a full narrative way.
Very cool. So let's just break down exactly what it is. I've seen the short trailer for it, and what it looked like to me was a first-person sort of, you being the first person and venturing into this world of mice and creatures and sort of interacting with them. Tell me a little bit more about it, just what the experience is.
Sure. It's actually, we had to ponder how to put audience into the movie without having them ruining it. And that was the one thing that we had to start on, and how to craft a story based out of that. And this is the moment that you could finally become a friend and get involved with the characters from the movie, and you could change the course of the story. Right.
So it is, you can have multiple paths. What I'm thinking of is like a video game where they kind of have to railroad you down a certain narrative, but you have different sort of tree branches to get there. Is that the idea, like a video game, kind of?
Yes, kind of, but instead of creating a whole different scene or world, we rely on a character's emotion. So depending on your reaction and interaction with the character, the character would drive you into a different sets of mood and scenes. And eventually, we call it a totality that we get from it is the whole message, what we're trying to convey out of this multiple different scenes. And
cool. So you're becoming the buddy from the title with, forgive me, is it a squirrel? Or a mouse?
It's just a mouse, yes.
It's just a mouse.
Right.
And that mouse is cueing you to kind of go certain places, and because it's VR, you can sort of turn your head and point in different directions. To set that scenario, it kind of seems like it would maybe be directed at kids, or is it directed at everybody?
Well, it was intended for a kidult, I would call it.
Cool.
Yes, because there's a lot of adults, apparently, they teared up after they take off their goggles and whatnot. And it's amazing how this interactive storytelling could engage audience in another level. Within this 15 minutes to 30 minutes of time, they get this sensation after they were involved in this virtual reality with anamorphic character.
Yeah.
And
is it a genre in and of itself? It strikes me that if I were, some big studio exec, I would want to commission VR film projects to kind of support my traditional film project. Like you could interact with the Avengers or something like that. How do you view the sort of frontier of this genre?
The film and play game, the genre will always be there.
Yeah.
But what VR could bring in is we can't just replicate the cinematic language to make a new thing out of the VR. But VR is incorporating so many different elements, including interactive play and the musicals and anything that involves time and space, and in our case, proving existence of an audience and a virtual character within the reality, it was something more captivating for audience.
Let's turn to you, Stefan, on that note of musical language or a cinematic language, as Chuck said. I mean, it's your job to take it's completely wordless, the project,
yes,
correct?
Right.
So the music is sort of the texture. And when you look at animation, a composer like yourself faces sort of the challenge of you could easily slip into cliche, right?
Right. Also known as commonly used as Mickey Mousing.
Okay.
So I score every little bump, every little squeak, every little jump,
slide whistles and all of
everything.
that stuff.
Right. And that's something Chuck and I were having a lot of discussions about, and we wanted to really more get pure to the emotion because it is wordless. Sometimes there are moments where it has to be a little more complicated. Sometimes simple is better. Especially there was a very touching scene. I won't get into it for not to spoil anything, but there was a very touching scene, and I was kind of overscoring it. So sometimes composers like myself, I mean, it's something we tend to fall into. We will overscore something, basically. Just think simpler.
Yeah.
He'll give me a reference, but I mean, it's more like just we would talk about the emotion, the feeling. And then how would I feel about that? And just like actors, you'll get into the mode, like think about something that makes you sad or something that makes you think this way. And then I was like, okay, all right, just really, really simple opening, and then kind of elaborate, on that. And yeah, exactly.
Less is more. Less is more.
Less is more.
So, Stefan, what is the musical mood or the musical sort of overtone of buddyvr? It's a fun cartoon, so you're drawing on fun musical language, as we heard in the intro.
Exactly.
But how do what kind of tone are you trying to set? You're trying to create a friendship, aren't you?
Right. So there are moments where the music is very linear, and I have one theme, but maybe there's like two other themes, but I just want to keep as less themes as possible. And there are moments, also this goes more in the technical aspect, but while you're interacting with Buddy, I need to have a feeling that can mean many different things. It can mean kind of a sense of urgency or a sense of choice. And there were two scenes where it had to kind of loop and really have the user really make a decision.
Yeah.
And feel a certain way without feeling one way, maybe like two or three different ways.
You would need a musical fork in the road to sort of say whether this was a fortunate choice or an unfortunate choice, and have it all be the same thing.
And you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that's where it kind of separates from video games. Because video games, there's always a predetermined... I mean, there's some games that kind of have, they have choices, but I just really feel like this was a little more than that, and it really makes it feel like you're actually having a relationship with someone, or a character, i.e. Buddy. So, yeah, making sure the music is very key in those moments. That's what sets it apart from being like a linear film.
I have this old-fashioned image in my head of a musical composer for a film. I picture this person, in a New York apartment, plunking away at a piano and trying to come up with a melody. But it's vastly different than that now, isn't it? I mean, it's so digital.
Right. It's very digital. Sometimes, a lot of times it's on time constraints. Sometimes it's budget. It can be various factors. So this score was primarily computer-based, but that's part of the art of when I went to Berkeley. It's like learning how to make that like synthesized
Berkeley School of Music, Boston, my home.
It used to be called the Berkeley School of Music, right?
Now it's just called Berkeley.
No, now it's called Berkeley College of Music.
Berkeley College
because now
of
it's
Music.
an accredited college.
Gotcha.
So, but you're right. It used to be called the Berkeley School of Music. That's the great.
Back in my day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But but it still has. I mean, it's such an amazing school because there's no one way of doing it. Because I grew up in the classical conservatory atmosphere, and I really respected that, and I learned so much. But at Berkeley, it was like saying that there was a set of rules, but it's like, the sky's the limit for whatever you can do.
Yeah.
But the technical aspect was very much pushed because there are a lot of resources that are not available anymore. You can't always be in front of an orchestra to record.
Yeah.
Right. So make sure that synthesized orchestra looks good. But we were fortunate to record some choral members and one violinist, and it's always helpful to have some sort of a live element in the score. And Chuck was really pushing for like some a vocal element.
I really despise the digital sounding from the movie, from the music, and I felt bad because I wish the budget was sufficient enough to support Stefan's
purely
music.
Analog music for everything.
Yes,
right?
but what he did great was based on the limitation that we had. He was able to create much more rich, more sounding, and something more new than we can get more from traditional piece. And also, it was very interesting that we experimented with diegetic and non-diegetic language of the music, where we don't have a headphone on all the time in a reality. So we're trying to create a motivation of where the music should come in within the virtual reality.
Yeah.
And because just like you said, we're incorporating body language and the musical language to communicate how Buddy is feeling and how he's interacting. It was very good. It was great that Stefan was able to create that, craft that language to communicate this.
So interesting, the difference in this genre. You've got a helmet on and goggles and headphones, and the idea being to absorb you into sort of a first-person experience of somebody that's in the scene, rather than sort of an omniscient audience member that's just kind of surveying the scene like God. What a different set of tools you must have to reach for and all of that.
Yes.
Right. Well, I really appreciated it, and it was something, a challenge, but it's also kind of nice to see. When I was seeing people interacting with the headset on and everything, and you're as an outside observer just watching them, there's a screen where you can see everything they're seeing. But anyways, you're just watching, and they kind of walk outside that little circle where they're standing, and they're kind of going too far. And there's always a warning sign when you're in the virtual reality, say, okay, you're walking too far. But I kind of like that they kind of want to go out there.
Yeah.
Because that proves
they're immersed.
Yes.
Yeah, that proves that they're really immersed into the story and that they're really involved with it. But there were moments when they're almost running to the TV, right,
yes,
Chuck?
I know.
Maybe you can
breaking the device. Yes.
Any stories from that when I didn't see?
There's people bleeding after experience and hitting the wall and
Hitting
whatnot.
the wall.
But
Well, some people get like seasick and nauseous if they're up a tree or on a building or something like that.
They do, yes.
They get vertigo.
I mean,
not from Buddy though.
Right. It's yes. There was something that we wanted to carefully design into, because that's a basic curriculum, and that's VR storytelling. Unless you have mastered at that certain level, you shouldn't tackle onto different subject matters or bring in some crazy device to drive audiences crazy. And what's great was we were able to borrow cinematic language to bring out empathy out of the audience and making them move and walk out from a fourth wall that they were used to hide behind the wall. But in a VR, seeing them walking in front of the wall now and getting themselves engaged into this virtual world is something very pleasing. Right. Besides them hitting the wall, but
right, exactly. Like I think I hope I'm on the right track here. But there was a moment in the film. I also won't try to spoil it. But there's an event where Buddy is doing something, and then something happens. But then you're looking at Buddy, but it's not happening in that plane of view. It gives you the clue that something's happening somewhere else.
Okay.
And the music is where it's really hitting hard at that moment, and that forces the user to actually look around.
Right.
Because we're still in the mode where we're always looking forward to the film, right? But it's great to have those clues, either with sound effects, not just music, but sound effects or some other visual cue, to really have the user move around.
And you have that option. You're not looking at a square on a wall. You have that option to make a choice as to where your field of view is going to be.
Right.
That sounds really cool.
Right.
I guess you have to have the Buddy VR experience. You got to be in a room where you have room to move. This is not something where you can be packed into a theater seated watching this, right? Or am I wrong?
Right.
Do you stand?
You're right. It's a stand-up installation that we need at least 2 meter by 2 meter space.
Okay.
For them to actually
got your own little sort of viewing studio where you go to see it.
Right.
As the director of an animated project like this, are you all the way back holistically at the beginning of the production? Are you sort of storyboarding the drawings and stuff and directing the animators what to draw?
I had to convince investors to start with.
It goes even further.
Yes.
Salesman. You're the director and the rainmaker for Buddy VR.
Right. It's just hey, we're gonna become a friend with a lonely mouse. And that was it.
Was it a tough sell?
Yes, it was, because if we were to explain this in a linear film format, that was it. That was just two sentences story. And is it going to be a captivating VR piece that worth my money? And of course, but
I would think you could ignite a real flame under, the possibilities for commercialization of this are endless.
Yes.
You could have this or that company's signature character lead you through and point out all of these wonderful products that you could pick up off the shelf.
Absolutely.
So that's sort of like the corporate dark side of this, I suppose.
and I'm hoping that I could be also part of that process, so they don't ruin the movie.
So that you can live in a penthouse someday.
That's a nice business model, but as long as it doesn't interact, interfere with the creativity, of course.
Well, let's start with the squirrel friendship, and eventually we'll get into selling cars.
And I wanted to bring up that point. That's something you said in your speech, that this art form needs to really give power back to the people. Rather than, it's great to commercialize, but, that's the purpose of VR, right? Is to really bring...
I mean, the people born in after 80s, they don't feel obligated to go to theater every weekend. They have movies and stories and games all around them, including their phones and computers, and kids are touching glasses to see if they respond. And
the educational potential is huge too, isn't it?
That as well. And for that, we can't really we have to decentralize this narrative power, because people have a right to become a YouTuber. They could create their own content, movies and everything, which is great. But we have to create something more compelling now. That has to come out from the screen, actually. We have to go more than film and game.
Right. And just like everything that's wonderful and new comes with a lot of criticism. There's a lot of negativity surrounding everything. Yes.
Haters?
And haters. There you go. That's the perfect
I'm
word
actually
for
one of the haters, believe it or not. It's very ironic. I really despise the goggles.
What is your gut instinct to hate on this? How does that verbalize itself?
Well, anything that makes audiences, including myself, uncomfortable when I'm watching or viewing something.
Okay.
It's I'm a huge enemy. I really hate to have put something uncomfortable on me. I went through this stereoscopic 3D producer days where I've seen people wearing glasses, 3D glasses in the theater. Even that lightweight glasses were very uncomfortable for people to enjoy. And now we're having a whole helmet. And including all the ladies, they're ruining their makeups and everything, hairs and all gone. And they're all sweaty after the experience is done. And
I suppose I won't ask you about 4D with all the mist. And
goodness, why are they kicking my seat? Right?
Yeah, exactly. I want to see Thor get hit. I don't want to get hit every time.
Exactly.
I remember that.
Right.
So you're. It's clear why you're in Korea. You're Korean. How did you two meet? And did you meet in Korea?
I'm trying to think. Well, there was we didn't meet in Korea. Actually, we met completely through Facebook.
Oh, really? Virtual?
Yes.
Yep.
Virtual reality.
Through Mark.
That's how we work.
Mark Zuckerberg's vision of connecting the world, right?
Okay. That's sort of your buddyvr is Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, right. But no, I got introduced through another Korean filmmaker. Her name was Saren Kim, a mutual contact of Chuck, and big thanks to her, because without that, I wouldn't meet such a wonderful director who is who not just has a really creative vision, but also has a lot of respect for music. But we created on a feature together, and in China,
right?
And then we did another VR project, and this is our third project.
Right. Okay, so you've got a track record together.
Yes.
Is this the start of a legendary film partnership? Will you guys do more things?
I'm hoping so. Yeah,
Me too.
I have a good feeling about this, and I really want to give a shout out to Stefan's wife, because
who happens to be Korean, I believe.
Yes, right.
Without her, I would not have Stefan to care about Korea, or artists from Korea, and I really appreciated that.
Right. And this is, I'll be honest, working in the Korean industry, it is tough to break in, especially as a foreigner. But I've been very fortunate and been able definitely to adapt.
And the music speaks for itself. Unlike other things where you have all kinds of cultural interfacing to do, you can put the music out there and just let it be its own salesman, right? Right.
Well, through my travels, not just to Korea but throughout the world, I feel like there's a lot more similarities than some cultural differences. There are major cultural differences, but I feel like, especially when it comes to emotion, everything is
differently distributed. Maybe. It's the same.
It's same but different, right? But
different boxes is how I put it.
Different boxes, but a lot of the same roots. And try to just tap into that. I think that's very important. And so
where does Korea stack up in terms of the ladder of ideal places to put out VR-related entertainment content? Is it a player, or is it that all in Hollywood or New York?
Well, I would say Korea has been very technology savvy in terms of experimenting in the market and also coming up with a different technology. But I've seen so many creators having a trouble to create a content that could travel internationally, to communicate internationally. That's something that we definitely have to work to make it better. But in terms of the technologies and the number of contents being created in Korea, it's massive.
Yeah, I mean, the infrastructure is here, the know-how is here. Time slowly is catching up with us, but I do want to ask both of you what imminent projects, either together or separately, you have coming up next. I know you, Chuck, have a film premiering at BIF, is that right?
Yes.
Busan International Film Festival?
I was lucky to collaborate with director Chu Sang-mi. She used to be a very well-known actress. She directed a feature film documentary called Children Gone to Poland, and it has been invited to Busan International Film Festival, and it will be released in October 31st in theaters. Yeah.
Okay. Children Gone to Poland.
There's a really sad history about this. Apparently, the Poland was generous enough to accept Korean kids in general to raise them while the war was happening back in the day. And we follow a story of North Korean descendants with director Chu to travel to Poland to find its heritage and track down the history.
That sounds pretty extraordinary. I mean, there's a bit of the opening film is a drama about North Korea-related topics. So BIF is kind of pivoting a little bit towards the emotion, the pathos of North Korean-related subject matter.
Yes.
Stefan, how about you?
Quite a few. A lot of them I can't talk about, but more on the film side, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Big films that will...
It'll be out there. I'll say that. Which I really wish I could talk about it more. But I definitely want to have some more opportunities to actually. I think I'm in the point in my career where I'm going to start breaking into actually doing what I really love to do in scoring, which is actually recording an orchestra for the film. Because then I feel like a lot of the essence comes out of the feeling. Because I mean, I have been using synthesized orchestras for so long, but being able to use that organic orchestra really elevates the score tenfold, and so I look forward to doing those type of projects.
Blink twice if you're on the next Star Wars movie.
No,
because you'd
one would always wish, right?
That's like the ultimate orchestral experience. I would imagine it to be. Yeah.
Right.
Well, guys, we are up against our time limit. It has been a super pleasure to talk to you about this award-winning virtual reality film, buddyvr. Can we experience it in Korea anywhere?
Yes, it is.
Is it going to come out commercially somewhere? Or?
Yes, based at a location-based entertainment in Korea and both North Korea.
So watch the advertisements, watch your social media feed. You're going to have an opportunity to go see it, right?
Sorry, North America.
North America.
Sorry.
North America, not North. North America. North America.
Who knows? Moon Jae-in may work it out.
He'd be like,
goodness.
Chuck Chae, Chae Suun, and Stefan Schmidt. It has been a pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another little selection of Stefan Schmidt's music from buddyvr. That is going to do it for our Saturday edition of Koreascape. The show is produced by Linda Jun with associate production from Jamie Lee, writing by Jennifer Chang, and I'm Kurt Achin. Want to wish you a wonderful start to your Chuseok celebrations. We are going to come back with Koreascape next week. We'll see you then.